All right, family. All right. All right. And all right. Good morning to us, family, here on June the 19th, 2025. Right. A good morning to y'all. And of course, like we always do this time of the year, as has always been, and even before it was recognized as a day. Happy Juneteenth. June 19th in the 1860s, family. Man, what a long trip, family, right? June 19th, 1865. The government decides to say slavery's over, right? Black folks can go on. This is going to be a good conversation today, family, right? This is going to be a good conversation today. Let's do this. Let's do this here, right? Before we get started, your boy going to bring it today, family. So stay tuned. Tune in, right? Get your antennas tuned up, ready to go. Some of this is going to tie into the topic of friends, family. Who you got in your life? Who do we have in our lives, family? That really is where that's where this is going to go. This will be a time for reflection, so on and so forth. Okay. This is something we all family, right? All right. We could start with one part of this. We want to start off in the wisdom of Sirach. Okay. Again, this is the end of chapter 5, going into chapter 6, talking about friends. Okay. And in classic fashion, of course, I forgot. Yes, I know I haven't done the open just yet, but we want to read this and then we are going to go in. Okay. Do not be known. This is verse 14, the wisdom of Sirach, chapter 5. Do not be known, or Ecclesiasticus, as it's also called. Do not be known as, again, we're reading from the Apocrypha. These are the groups of books that the class kicked out, right? Theologians and folks that know the Bible said wasn't part of canon, right? Which clearly all of this is not the case. But we're going to read. Do not be known as a whisperer. Do not set an ambush with your tongue, for shame rests upon the thief. Whisperer and setting your ambush with your tongue is compared as a thief. And an evil condemnation on the double-tongued. Okay, so we have talked about an equivocal language, how people use it. They use double speech, family, right? And evil condemnation is on people who operate in that type of energy, right? Verse 15, do not be ignorant in great matters or in small, right? Or in small matters. Okay? Ignorant. So we do that stupid and ignorant thing all the time, right? This, like I said, strap in, family, because this one's going to be, this is pack a lunch today. Ignorant. We're not worried about time today. None of that. Ignorant, lacking knowledge or awareness in general, uneducated, and they do unsophisticated. Again, there's a level of sophistication that people need to have. Right. We'll let Snoopy play here for a second, for a few minutes. So lacking knowledge, that's what we come down to when we're talking about ignorant. Do not lack knowledge in great or small matters. I do this in my own life. Again, the premise of this podcast is as we learn, we share, which should be, I mean, for the most part, most podcasts, that's kind of the premise. You know, you go through things and you share them, right? Chapter 6. Do not prove an enemy. Do not prove an enemy, or do not prove to be an enemy instead of a friend. For an evil name incurs disgrace and reproach. So does a sinner who is double-tongued. Okay, so now we're going back to this idea. Don't take it up with me. Take these thoughts up with the Maker. Okay. Do not exalt yourself in your own soul's designs, so that your soul may not be torn in pieces. Like a bull running, it says like a bull in this translation I'm reading, but like a bull running through, right? We all know the matador, right? And the bull and that interaction. Looney Tunes and Bugs Bunny has made fun of it, made light of it, not made light of it, but just had fun with it, right? There's cartoons that you can reference on this kind of thought. Excuse me. That's verse 2. Verse 3, if you eat up your leaves, and we're talking about trees now. If you eat up your leaves, you will destroy your fruit and you will leave yourself like a dried up tree. Okay, when you're looking at fruit, apples growing, all that kind of thing, them leaves, normally when we in the supermarket, we only see the stem, they done picked off the leaves. But the leaves add a level of protection, family. It's how the thing grows. You do not want to eat up the stuff that helps you grow. This is a challenge for us all here, right? Verse 4, wicked heart will destroy its possessor and his enemies, and will fill his enemies with malignant joy. Verse 5, sweet speech makes many friends, and a polite tongue multiplies courtesy. Okay. Let those who are at peace with you be many, but let your advisors be 1 in 1,000. I don't need like 1,500 folks to advise me on my life. We always should be open to what people are saying, but your advisors, those who are closest to you, you be careful. Okay, the people you let close. Now, it gets into this whole idea of friends, right? If you make a friend, make one only after testing. Now, they say him, we say in them, because we know this is for men and women. Okay? Do not be in a hurry to confide in them. We're talking about just meet somebody, right? Normally starts off the word we use as an acquaintance, right? So in that beginning there, you just don't hop on in. I know we like to do that in many cases. We all do that because we're all in search of a thing. But understand that your search for a thing can be a downfall. So you got to do it in certain steps. There's a certain way that we do things, family, right? This is the part they don't really teach in school. They don't talk about this in making friends. They should, right? But even to our youth, all the way up to age 60, 90, whatever, when you make friends, right? You just don't hop on in that thing. There's a testing point. Same thing with marriage. This don't mean you put people through stupid kind of Indiana Jones Temple of Doom type stuff. We we do too much of an excess. Again, life is lived in balance. Okay. Speaking of which, let's do this. Just pause here and put this in there. Welcome in us, right? Let's just do this to get the open out of the way. Welcome in us who are the 1,300 plus strong. Almost 1,300 plus strong. We're getting there. We're almost there. Who believe in, who love after, who hunger, seek, and thirst. We're searching for that which is a different view. Family, welcome in. Again, we're talking about Juneteenth and its significance as far as black folks released from master's oppression. Okay, to say it plainly. Because that's what that was. That's what everybody watched. There was a whole lot going on from about the 1400s on the lands of North America and the Americas. So not only North America, but Central, South America, and the islands. The show was on the road. This is also, when we're talking about June, just to put this in context before we continue reading. I hadn't done this month because, again, it's, you got Father's Day. Then that pours over into Juneteenth, so on and so forth. Different things going on in my life. Just life, nothing crazy, just living life. You don't have a chance to go over certain things. So let's read off some of the stuff here in this month, which will tie in everything we're talking about in Juneteenth today. Literally. African American month, they got us looking at each other as men and women wrongly, family. They got us looking at each other as different. Again, the word they put in is races, cultures, people groups. They got us looking at that wrongly, right? Specifically, we're going to be talking about as far as that subject goes, our Latin, again, dark, brown, and tan skin tone people groups, which there's a few. Okay. Again, we did an episode a while ago talking the difference between minority and majority. Family, you look around the planet, there's a lot of dark skin tone folks, brown, tan skin tone folks. So we got to have a conversation there. So African American Appreciation Month. We're talking jazz, we're talking blues, we're talking R&B, we're talking hip hop. Anything with where the so-called black man and woman is involved, family. Okay. Now, because we know we're talking brown and tan skin tone folks, so they just say African, right? Again, when they say African, you got like Afro-Cuban, Afro-Brazilian. They put Afro on everything. Family, there's another thing you're going to have to realize, which we will talk today. Again, pack a lunch. There's certain things here that we are all not. It's African as people think, right? This is what you've been told, though. Okay. We're not denying the people groups that come from Africa. We're not saying that folks ain't African. Okay. Don't mix the two things I'm saying. We are saying that there are people groups here. Okay. Which they've been having folks believe from the jump from your schooling. No matter whether you're 90 or 17. Okay. We're everybody from Africa. Today's society, we're beginning to, because again, the knowledge is there, the books are there, the want to from people is there, because again, a lot of this, the want to is not there. And you knock your head against the wall and you knock your head against the wall and you start to find out certain things. To which we have a conversation, especially with this whole ICE thing of who's supposed to get involved in the pains of humanity. We got to have that conversation. So Caribbean Heritage Month, right? And of course they put in Caribbean American. Right, that's fine. It's just double entendre, really. When you say, again, we're talking double speech. Caribbean Heritage Month, okay. All right. Of course, we know it's Pride Month, LBGTQ plus community. Right. Shout out to y'all as well. Okay. Safety Month. Another one in here is Men's Health Month. Okay. Men's health. What we're going to talk about today affects men's health. All right. National Dairy Month is there. Great outdoors. So again, in health, outdoors, there's health out there. Again, just right before we continue in this talking about friends here, let's put a pause on that and get into this idea of what's going on. Let me see if I left it up in my tabs here. I may or may not have the effects, family. Let's see. Talking about going outside. Yeah, here it is. What do you think, family, is some of the effects of walking out under the sun? Do we know? Some of us on the podcast do, right? But this is about sharing and teaching. This is something I forgot to do. No, I think I did the last episode. I've been trying to do the same episode, family, we talking right now for like the last couple of days. And I think it's because it's needed to be said today, personally. So, understand, family, there's serious health implications where we don't take it seriously, right? Because again, Massa got you minded in things you should not be, right? Just on top of our own deficiencies as well, of which our minds are on things they should not be, right? Which we have to constantly keep ourselves in remembrance. Okay. Vitamin D production. So the sunlight helps produce the vitamin D in your body. Vitamin D assists. Again, this is stuff that you can look right online. We're not playing that game anymore, family, right? But it's time we research. A lot of times we're not researching nothing. Come on now. We're more concerned on sports games and things of that nature. A lot of people in either Indiana or Oklahoma City are concerned by, I understand it's not on a national level. Unfortunately, right? People do not pay attention to what's going on in other places, and you start missing stuff that's happening in other places, right? unless it makes major news. But we have to be more our ear to the ground, as they say. Speaking on that, when we talk about rabbit holes, because this is normally where people do this thing with rabbit holes, I want to reintroduce this thought process. Again, repetition is necessary for learning. When you talk about rabbit trails, rabbit holes, that's where the rabbit lives, moves, grooves, right? Bunny, hare, whatever word you want to use for rabbit, right? So that rabbit hole is that rabbit's home. We talking about being home, family. When you deal on certain things that folks call a rabbit hole, many times, more than not, you just talking about being home in your mind and in your thoughts on certain of these subjects, family. It's time we return home to some things. Master has got us on the road in his house or her house. It's time that we revisit ours, right? This is what greed looks like. Greed got you more on them than you, okay? Calcium absorption, right, for your bones and supports a healthy immune system. It improves the sleep quality. Sunlight, especially in the morning, this is where you get this whole morning dew thing and all that kind of stuff. It's important to move around in the morning. Again, the way it's said in the scriptures is that you do the work in the day because at night there comes a time where humans cannot work, right? Okay. It's just a thought there that Christ was trying to bring out, man. You get the thing done when it's time to get it done, instead of making up time to do it at other times, because there's certain times when you can't work, okay? We'll leave it alone. We'll leave it alone. Certain people catch on. Some people will catch on, man, right? Helps regulate your circadian rhythm, aka your internal body clock. That improves the sleep quality. Makes you more refreshed during the day. That, again, all you type in is what are the health benefits to walking under sunlight. Talking about it's the great outdoors month. So get out there, y'all. Right? Family, come on now. Again, they got you working 24/7. It's time to make time for yourself to get out there. Take time. Walk in the park. Walk around in the zoo, look at animals. Get yourself used to, we know about the zoo part. That we understand it, and then took animals and put them in sometimes to preserve their lives, many times not. We get it, right? We just finished talking about human zoos with our German brothers and sisters, right? Again, we're talking about get around nature. Aquariums, walk that thing, man. Walk that thing. It's no wonder we're so, this is for me, anybody. It's no wonder we're so unhealthy. We got to do more of the walking. Forget the Uber. Okay. Forget the scooter. Again, this is not a knock on folks who need those things to move around. Okay. Please leave some of these defenses at home and have an open heart. This is the time for us to start moving around more, family, right? If you don't use it, you'll lose it. This is the thought that's brought out. Okay. Cardiovascular health, lowering blood pressure. For the black man, we understand that blood pressure is a problem. So for men's health, again, one of these things dealing in Juneteenth, right? Because you could only go certain places. This is part of the slave codes, just like you couldn't read. This is part I was going to interject later. But do we know when we were allowed to read, family? Talking to the black man and woman. Do you know? Right. So that thing was illegal for like at least most of the time we were on our ancestors were on these lands, right? Of course, we come from a people who are very smart and very intelligent. We're just talking about where they broke the chain at some point, similar to the story that you see in the Garden of Eden. Everything was going along nice and good till that serpent came along, right? And then people's reactions kind of went sideways to how they should have dealt with the serpent. Nobody talking about killing nobody. God didn't even kill Adam and Eve, right? Just sent them out from where they were supposed to be. Again, get the folks from around your family that don't mean you're no good. Whether they be family or friend, right? Of course, we would understand the foe as well, but foe as well, right? People that mean you well is who you want around your family. People that's going to give you benefit. This is not about selfishness. It's about preservation, family. You can look at it how you so choose. And we've been looking at it very interestingly, I'll say it that way, for a long time now, where we've been entertaining some folks we should not. Okay. People who are dividing humanity. Nope. We're talking about how we operate properly. And for sure, just introducing yourself into the game that was not yours is not coming up on there properly, right? Taking folks' land that was not yours. Forcing a whole workforce. Lazy. Again, we're talking about the word lazy. Same thing with ignorant. And we've spoken before about the literacy rate. So for those who sit there and controlled who couldn't read, the literacy rate wasn't that great either. But I'll digress, right? Your internal body clock is affected by sleeping, by the sunlight, which helps your sleeping. Okay? Right? These are all links to things that doctors have been studying. So before you like, okay, you're just talking off again, article after article after article of people studying this. Just because you don't want it, family, listen, same thing with me. Just because I don't want to do it, I'm not going to sit there and then say, oh, that's fake news. No, it's not. I don't want to do it. So then the excuse I'm going to use is it's fake news. This is not to say that when you look up things, that they ain't playing around with information. They've been doing that whether it was a newspaper book or not. And we're going to read some today. Anyway, cardiovascular health, it helps lower blood pressure, which of course reduces the risk for heart disease. We already know the black men deal with this a lot, right? Okay. Boosts immune system. Okay, so beyond the vitamin D production, it helps increase the white blood cell count, which bolsters your body's ability to fight infections, aka helps your immune system. Okay, it helps you burn calories, of course, because your body's the cells are moving, right? Okay, improves digestion. Evening walks. Check this out. The sun is still up, right? We're talking about God. Hey. God met Adam, right? It's right there in your Bible, right? Your Bible says God met and walked with Adam. Now, listen, we're going to use a little bit of imagination here, right? God met with Eve too, walking in the cool of the day. The sun is still up at that point, or down, either way. Right? Because it's cooler at the points of those days, at that time in the day, right? Okay. It helps with aiding digestion. So maybe after we eat that food, wait a minute, just like you do with swimming, right? Don't go in the pool, kids. Wait a minute before you go swimming. Okay. So you wait a minute after you eat dinner, go find a place to go walk. Now I know. Massa got you on that plantation, so that time period during the day is kind of gone. Interesting how we built a whole community and economy around that kind of thought process. But I digress. This ain't Shangri-La we're talking about, family. This is a life and ability you want to talk about protesting. Helps prevent issues like indigestion and heartburn. So for those who have issues with indigestion issues and heartburn, maybe the most simplest thing is going walking and soaking in that sun, right? So the outdoors, that's another thing that is highlighted in this month. Let's see what else there could be. Okay, so safety, I think I mentioned that already. Safety month, right? So, we could go into talking about gun safety and all that kind of thing. We'll leave it alone, all right? Let's finish off this verse and go from there. We were in the Wisdom of Sirach, chapter 6. And we stopped right at verse 7. Again, it says, if you make a friend, right, as we're about 20 minutes in, if you make a friend, make one after testing them. Don't be in a hurry to confide in them. Here's why. Okay. Thank God for this. See, we give our kids so many things. We tell them so many things. But, there comes a point, right, as your children get older. Man, this is the part of the beautiful of conversation between the parent and the child. Oh, if we would only hold on to it. Even when it gets rocky to talk to each other, family, don't stop talking. See? There are friends, verse 8, who are, so when it suits their convenience. There's friends in your life that are there just because it's convenient for them. Right? Who will not stand by you when you're in trouble. That's the byproduct of it only being convenient for them. Family, my God, help me to say it today. We are friend with each other down here. When did we stop? When did we stop being friends with each other? Where did that start? The idea, family, is divide and conquer. Listen to the phrase. When did we stop becoming friend with each other? Now that you got to question who is supposed to be involved in another person's pain. Think about it, y'all. There is a friend that only is there when it suits their convenience. This is why you got to test folks. Okay? They will not stand by you in the time of trouble. But there's a friend. Hey, hey, hey. Anyway, right? There are for those who are Bible folks know the end know the end of that thing, right? for the Christian out there, right? For those who don't, who have been familiar with that there's a friend that sticketh closer than a brother, right? Family. Okay. There are friends who turn into enemies and reveal quarrels to your discredit. Okay. There are friends who will sit at your table, but will not stand by you. Again, we're just reiterating. They will not stand by you when you're in trouble. Family, what's going on with our dear Mexican brothers and sisters? This is to the black man and woman, this conversation is trending lately. How dare you receive that live from the man? Yeah, we gonna put it from the live from the devil himself, right? Herself, right? Who put that information in your mind that now is not the time to stand with your brother, sister? You had to fight for your freedom. Do you know what one of the penalties was when they caught the slave trying to read? They cut off their fingers, family. This is what you read when you find out these things, family. Historical record. Cutting off fingers. We done already heard about this whole thing over in the Congo. Which clearly when you read Willie Lynch's letter, man, you could, again, they've already admitted to it when you get to the Holocaust. The model for that was slavery. Now, where do you think they're getting that model from? Where do you think the slavery model is coming from? Look at all the horrors they've done to people before they went and brought that mess on the road to the African brother. And never mind. Right? Never mind. Let's continue. That was verse 9. They will reveal quarrels to your discredit. Never something to your credit. Always putting you in a bad light. There are friends who will sit at your, verse 10, they will sit at your table, not stand with you when you're in trouble. 11, they will make themselves at home as long as you're prosperous. Come on, somebody who got some money. And we're not talking like millions of dollars. We're talking about like when you come into, they made a movie called Lottery Ticket back in the day, right? Of course, with black folks and the foolishness that goes on when you win the lottery, right? But, since we like the but so much, right? To the point where women are spending a lot of money doing these BBLs. At the end of it, again, we're not discrediting anyone who wants to change up their body type. However, we are highlighting the fact that we got to be okay with just our body type. And this sick discrediting of the beautiful human temple. Your Bible says you're the temple of the living God, man. We talking made in the image. I don't got to recreate nothing. I just got to live in the healthiest version of me. Somebody talk to me. Anyway. Oh, man. They will make themselves at home as long as you're prosperous and will give orders to your servants. So they ain't going to act like you in the house. No mercy. No grace. They're just sitting there talking to people who help you. Well, come on now. We all know some folks like this, man. The rest of it's disconnected. That's the type of people they are. If you come down in the world, meaning if you fall on hard times, they will take sides against you and hide themselves from your presence. Okay, so that's verse 12. Again, the wisdom of Sirach, chapter 6. Separate yourself from your enemies and beware of your friends. See again, these friends, put it in quotation marks. Check this out. Here's how you know the difference. A faithful friend. My. Somebody take a moment to pause and think. Good God help us, man, of the faithful friends in our lives. Them ones that have stuck by our sides by some of the most hellish mess. A faithful friend is a strong protection. Now they say a man, we talking about humans, right? So man or woman, who has found one has found a treasure. Bruno Mars made a song called Treasure back in the day, a few years back, right? We all remember it, I think. Play it one time if you forgot. A faithful friend is beyond price. And their value cannot be weighed. A faithful friend is a life-giving medicine. And those who fear the Lord will find it. We're gonna stop right there on that, right? We just wanted to bring out that thought, family, real quick. I didn't wanna, not too quick, kind of quick. Kind of quick. We're at 30 minutes. So let's get into what your boy had been wanting to talk about for the longest. So we're going to tie off this idea here first. We're going to play this little video. We're going to tie off this idea about what we shouldn't be getting involved in, why we shouldn't, where that came from. So our Mexican brothers and sisters are going through hell right now. Let's stop doing this mess about who don't belong here and what legal brought up, while you got the people who are descendants of the illegal talking about what they made legal. Now you illegals, family, we gotta, again, they burn these plantations are burning down, family. You got history all around you. You living in it. See, again, you got a lot of DID or cognitive dissonance going on, family. People don't want to see, again, like mental health. There's another one of those things. Men's mental health is another one of those things that's in this month, family. But again, when you live around such confusion and deception, that's going to mess with what you think on. So you got to unthink or renew your mind on some things. So let's just talk on this conversation. We're going to show some videos here about how we're supposed to be when it comes to being together. Let's just see if I can get it to pull up here.
100%. African American community is the only community that has the power in this country to change anything. They are the only one with the experience of civil matter. They are the only one que tenían el esclavo ahí mismitico. They are the only one that are not going to get deported anywhere, and you cannot put them all in jail. So African American community, which is the community that is stepped on by Cubans, the most are the only ones that are going to save the Latinos. And I clap for the African American community that has not come out, because it is not, I do.
Now, we're going to stop because, again, like we certain colorful language. A couple Cuban sisters here talking. Shout out to the community, the Cuban community one time, right? Our Cuban brothers and sisters. Shout out to you, brothers and sisters, man. Shout out to y'all. Okay. Listen, like we said before, family, there has to be levels of grace. Again, respect. Voluntary type stuff that gets reintroduced back into humanity. We've learned some very sick human sociological, societal type of things. I'll say it that way, for use of a better word. We have learned some bad behavior patterns, family, when it comes to how we deal with each other. And now, in this quote unquote, as they say, age of technology, we're more united than we think. Whether it be the Cuban, the Puerto Rican, the Dominican, the Mexican. Let's go further across the pond, as they say. Our Indian brothers and sisters. We're talking a nation of India. Over back here in North America, our Native American and so-called black brothers and sisters. There's certain things we have to put down. We stand as one. Do you realize why? Again, how does the strong man come in your house? Do you think the Welsh or Scottish and Irish, you think they stand each other? On a certain level? They do, but sometimes they don't. Okay, they don't give a damn about each other per se. They'll make fun of each other, they make light of each other, but when it's time to stand up, it's time to stand up.
From 18th to 24th April 1955, leaders of 29 Asian and African nations gathered in Bandung, Indonesia, in a landmark event in the history of decolonized people. What became known as the Bandung Conference was the largest gathering of its kind held on the soil of Asia or Africa. The conference took place against the backdrop of the Cold War and at a time when the post-war movement for national liberation in Asia, Africa, and Latin America was vigorously surging forward.
Let me just introduce this thought here to this. When you look at the Cold War, family. Now, again, you're talking about so-called Russia, okay? And the United States, this idea of capitalism and communism. Family, all that had to do with, again, like what normally is who's going to, we're not sharing, we're taking over. So two totally different rules there, okay? We're trying to paint the communists, while the capitalists in 1955, go back in the what was going on back then with the capitalists and how they operated with their people in 1955, right? Interesting, it's 1955, kind of like Back to the Future when they go back to 1955, okay? You know, with Biff treating treating that woman, I believe was like Marty's mom, right? And he had to be careful on hitting on his mama and all that kind of thing, right? We'll leave that alone, okay? Yeah. But in this story here that you're watching, Back to the Future, that we all love, and we all sing The Power of Love from Huey Lewis in the News, powerful song, come on, right? But at the end of the day, right, how was that man treating that woman? No different than, again, like we had said about domestic abuse, man. Killings, the homicides and domestic abuse, man. How many people, let me see if I got it still pulled up here. How many die? How many people die as a result of domestic abuse? There are, again, so now this stats coming from the Shelter House, right? Shelter House, you can type it in your deal, www.shelterhouseinwfl.org. Again, all you got to do is search how many people die as a result of domestic violence. There are 16,800 homicides and 2.2 million worth medically treated injuries due to intimate, this is what they call it now, intimate partner violence annually, which costs $37 billion. If you tell it, we're wasting money, family. We're wasting money. All the excuses between men, this is normally men to women, because again, most of the violence is the man toward the woman. Just like what you saw in 1955 with this depiction here with Biff Tannen and Marty's mama, who he didn't know when he went back in time, right? Family, we got, again, there's certain behavior here we got to be able to, we got to let go. I know the opposite. We're talking about the opposite of the opposite, though. You got to let go. If you want healthiness in your relationships, in your life, you're going to have to let go a lot of this mess, especially this mess Massa gave you. You're going to have to do the opposite of what they told you. So for the black brothers and sisters, since we couldn't read, they wouldn't let us read, it's time to read. Listen, this stereotype about what the geek and the freak and what they don't do, it's time to read, family. It's time to read and read all these documents that they've been hiding. Specifically, go back toward the time when they was talking, okay? When you couldn't read and when you couldn't vote, go back then and look, because that's where a lot of the foolishness is, okay? $37 billion on domestic violence. No, it's time to let that go, man. It's time to, what? That's the kind of portrayal. The woman could only be in the this is how they would treat. So while we're talking about capitalism and communism is so bad, this is how the capitalist was working with their people. This is why we say, family, the socioeconomic thoughts here are all well and good. Ain't nothing wrong with them. What's wrong is how the people operate. If you want to see the people who are being mistreated over in communism, then all you got to do is look over and see the people being mistreated in capitalism. Okay? These are the two main ones that everybody goes with, so we're going to use them. Again, by the time that you get a worker working with the boss, that thing is already not really capitalist. It's something else. Now, whatever name you want to call it, you can call it that. But the boss make that money, guess who else supposed to be making that money? The worker. And right now, the worker still to this day, right? You still got decades states that have not changed their state minimum wage. While the price of things is still going up, we are paying a price, family, for playing a sick game with each other financially, which is another one of the people activities. The other one we mentioned to you with domestic violence or intimate partner violence would be sex. That's another one. Let's continue.
Bandung, for many states, represented the belief in an alternate way of just global governance, which would lead to greater social and economic development for previously colonized peoples, and would counter colonialism in all its forms. The Bandung Conference gave rise to the non-aligned movement and the concept of the Third World or the Global South. The result of the 1955 Asian-African Conference in Bandung, known as the 10 Principles of Bandung, was a political statement containing the basic principles that would guide the efforts of developing countries to promote peace and cooperation in the world. These principles are worth recalling now. First, respect for fundamental human rights and for the purposes and principles of the Charter of the United Nations. Second, respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all nations. Third, recognition of the equality of all races and the equality of all nations, large and small. Fourth, abstention from intervention or interference in the internal affairs of another country. Fifth, respect for the right of each nation to defend itself singly or collectively in conformity with the Charter of the United Nations. Sixth,
I'm just going to pause here to give some reference. Again, this beautiful woman, this dear woman is already saying what's needed to be said, but I'm just going to jump in to say this. The Bandung Conference, again, literally has already been said. That was a town, okay, where they had where again, dark, brown, tan skin tone folks, while they doing this Berlin Conference trash, trying to divide up Africa. You had this one going on where we protect ourselves, family, right? I'm trying to figure out where we're missing it. I really am trying to figure out where we're missing it. Let me just do this real quick, because I do forget the time periods, right? I just want to make sure here. It's a lot of time we're covering here. Yeah, so 1955 is when the Bandung Conference is being done. Berlin Conference was back in the 1880s. So years later, this was the response for people groups who had been already victimized by the quote unquote so-called white man, right? Of which the United States was they were there. Okay. Let me do this real quick. My apologies. Give me 1 second. To show you again, we got to get away from Massa likes doing the thing where you break apart things just for your own basic interest. So then, if your basic interest is now hurt, even though this is a little sideways, because again, when something actually is going on for them, they band together. They find a way to band together. Okay. Yet the modus operandi is just to think about yourself. You got to be careful in doing that, because you're down here with a group of people. So again, be careful of, as the phrase goes, cutting off your nose to spite your face. You don't like the way your nose looks, you're going to hurt your face by cutting off your nose. This is what we mean by all these different things we do to our face. Botox, this, that, and other. We understand there's certain things you got to do. Be careful. You got people operating on you. So you take them as they, never mind. Okay. I know we talk about, the science is better than it was. And I get it. Be careful. That's all we're saying. Okay. Yeah. So the 1880s, and this is again, this is how this went. 1955. Let me continue. This she on principle 6 now.
Abstention from the use of arrangements of collective defense to serve the particular interests of any of the big powers, and abstention by any country from exerting pressures on other countries. 7th, refraining from acts or threats of aggression or the use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any country. 8th, settlement of all disputes by peaceful means such as negotiation, conciliation, arbitration, or judicial settlement, as well as other peaceful means, of the party's own choice, in conformity with the Charter of the United Nations. Ninth, promotion of mutual interests and cooperation. And finally, respect for justice and international obligation. As we look around the world today, these principles are deeply under threat. And yet, by the same token, their observance is needed now more than ever. During the decades following Bandung, as decolonization progressed, friction among the conference's members also increased.
That's where we're going to stop that video there, because we're going to go into some why. And as far as Juneteenth go, we're going to talk about where you see a lot of this friction. Again, like in the Garden of Eden, family, this is coming from massa, not the people made by the maker. Okay. So again, we gotta keep this in. One way this was done was through the slave Bible, family. Okay. Like we have talked about this before, a Bible made, now they say in 1807, again, you've got certain things here where they talk about the thing was given during the transatlantic slave trade, where they omit a lot of the Old Testament and the New Testament to keep people docile. Again, the people we're talking about is our black brothers and sisters. Be careful when you are reading scripture, because it started off, as far as its introduction to you, in the modern sense, to keep you docile. That's not what the Bible is for. It's for you to be more than a conqueror, and not just in the spiritual sense. We're talking about everyday life, again, affecting your health, spirit, soul, and body, right? Affecting how your relationships, who comes into your life, friend, family, spouse, whatever, partner, whatever, right? That's what that is. The rest of that mess is something else. Okay? Let's just continue here. There are certain things here that I brought up that I was going to talk about. We're going to talk about Sarah Rector, family. This is what we've been trying to talk about like for the last couple of days. I just couldn't get to it. They want to sit there and make you think like we're all different people groups and family. You should read some of the accounts. Well, maybe I should tie that off before you should read some of the accounts, family, when they talk about people groups, family, especially between our native brothers and sisters. When they speak on the mound builders. Now, mounds are literally like some burial sites, some places where people lived. These are things that we attribute to our native brothers and sisters. While they did build mounds, they were not the only group of people building those mounds. So let's just do this here real quick. Let me see if I can find it, because I did have it pulled up. Was it that one? The Physical History of Man. Okay, so you can look up a book. It's called Researches into the Physical History of Mankind, in 2 volumes. This is the 2nd volume by author James Cowles Pritchard. Okay, so Prichard. Again, the name of the book that you can see on Google Books is Researches into the Physical History of Mankind. That's how you type it in that's how you type it. And again, it's by James Cowles Pritchard. The book was made to show you how far back they've been studying us, family. You better start studying them. 1826. When you go to page 431, right? Let me just get my computer to do this. Give me 2 seconds. Here is some of the info that you hear. Okay, and let's just, 431. This is the colonizer talking about the people groups here. Okay, and their involvement with what's going on here. 1826. Okay. The country of the Cherokees lies in 34 degrees north latitude at the distance of 340 computed miles to the northwestward of Charleston. So like Charleston, made in Carolina, right? The Charleston. Okay, so we're talking the Carolinas right now. 100, hopefully that was a little bit on key. 140 miles southwest of the Kabata Nation, or excuse me, Catawba Nation. My apologies. My apologies to our native brothers and sisters who will hear me say certain names here. My apologies, right? Because it's certain pronunciations I'm not privy to. So again, I apologize. And almost 200 miles to the northward. This is now, that was page 4, the end of page 431. We're on 432. Almost 200 miles to the northward of Muskogee or Creek County. They were once a very populous and powerful nation. 60 years ago, Dr. Barton, this is another doctor here who's talking about his interaction with these folks. They had, 60 years ago, Dr. Barton says they had 64 towns and villages. That's for y'all who thinking that our native brothers and sisters are like some, same thing with our Mexican ones, that they're primitive. Okay. They're divided into upper and lower Cherokees. Their country is full of earthen mounds and fortifications, the remains of some more ancient inhabitants. Okay. These, say the Cherokee, were in the same condition in which they now appear when their ancestors first arrived from the West and expelled the nations of red men who previously occupied their country or that country. Okay. The latter, family, we got to stop battling with each other and it's time to start coming together. But I digress. We're going to keep on going. And just because, we must say it again, because Robert is beating up Rebecca does not mean I am supposed to join in. You can if you want to, but there is already a predisposed consequence or reward attached to that action. Let's continue. The latter, according to the Cherokee tradition, delivered to their forefathers, or delivered to them by their forefathers, the same story concerning the state of these mounds at the period of their own arrival. Dr. Barton says that according to the Cherokee tradition, they found the country at their arrival possessed by moon-eyed people who could not see in the daytime. These, he meaning Dr. Barton, supposes to be albinos. Okay, so these are folks without pigment in the skin. We'll just let y'all, connect the dots on who has less pigment, who has less melanin in the skin. Okay. And perhaps the ancestors, the people living there, right? They found the ancestors in these mounds. Okay, this is the story from there's people groups on the planet who pass down story. One of them is our native brothers and sisters. The story passed down to them, the ancestors of the people Darien. When you look up the Darien people, we're going to do it for time's sake. Panamanian brothers and sisters. That's all the way in South America. When you look at these brothers and sisters, we have already read to you about the account of Montezuma, how he looked. We talked about how they switched up the word in 1621. They switched up the word from Moor to Indian. So they play in a word game here. We've already talked about the different people found over in California. We've done an episode on that where they find these, talking about these folks came from the West. And when you look over there in these different tribes of people, that they had skin damn near black. There are multiple groups of people who were already living on these lands when Europe came calling. So for you to be so disingenuous now to turn around and say who don't live here, who is illegal, is embarrassing, to say the least. And it shows the greed hidden underneath the surface at the foundation. Folks want this thing for themselves. They refuse to live together. And as a result, there is a penalty that incurs. I'm sorry, family. Now, no one is saying that with these riots that have occurred and we're destroying things, that you help the other group benefit, because they're not coming in with Mexican-based contractors, African-based contractors, black, so-called black based conscience. They're not doing that. That's going to be their own people. It's going to be white folks, so-called white people. Again, because these are terms that they've made up. You came from a place. You had a name. You had a tribal name, a family name. It wasn't white or black. We're going to stop there. We're going to stop. We're going to stop there. Sarah Rector family, okay? Her life, who passed in 1967, was born actually on your boy's birthday, March 3rd, 1902. Birth, and as a result of the travels that our Native brothers and sisters had to travel because the U.S. government, see, this is the opposite way that you see today where they're trying to take them out the land. But the other way around, again, talking about the people groups already on these lands, were forced from the southeast up to Oklahoma, aka Indian Territory. Okay, and in Taft, Oklahoma was where Sarah Rector was born. And she is noted as the richest colored girl in the world. Why? Because by the time she was born and got there, the parcel of land, which we believe to be, I think from record, is in Glenpool, Oklahoma. Okay, kind of close. It's a little suburb, a little closer to Tulsa. All right. See, when you watch Killers of the Flower Moon, right? This is how devious these people can be. We're talking about folks who get close to you when you got money around you. Do you know they gave Sarah Rector guardians? They gave black folks who came into money guardians. You freedmen and women, right? We talk about the freedmen, right? It's another black man, right? Free. Okay. Along with the whole slavery thing that you see that word intertwined all the time when you read through history. Again, we'll leave it up to y'all to fill in the blanks. Okay. At the same time, these people are free. When you came into some wealth, you had to have a guardian around you. So much so that W.E.B. Du Bois had to get involved in this story, in this account of Sarah Rector, because of this following statement. This is something that you find when you look Pendergast, so Pendergast, KC.org, the Pendergast years, Kansas City, because her home, she bought a home, all the money she had, her home was in Kansas City, Missouri, right? I don't know if it is still there today. Somebody shout out in the comments if a home is still existing today. Somewhere along the line, that the oil they found underneath the surface, because again, when they moved them, let me just finish off this thought. When they moved all these people groups, again, Sarah Rector's family, then she is born and all this other kind of stuff, right? They move her, or at the very least, people groups there, her family meets, and then they have her, whether in that time period. But again, they moved them to a land that was barren, or what they thought was barren, where the land was not usable. And you talk to your Native brothers and sisters about the history of fry bread, they will tell you about how they made something out of nothing, okay? To show you how smart all these people groups are. We got to stop talking about no. We got to get involved in all of our pain, family. It is said that actions done against justice in one place is an action against justice anywhere, right? I'm saying it, I'm paraphrasing it, but that's what do we believe, okay? And we come into the close here. Like I said, pack a lunch. You get to this whole idea with her. W.E.B. Du Bois had to jump in to let them know, hey man, why can't, let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. So this was the kind of thing here. New York Age, it's a publication back in the day, reported wholesale protests in response to news of Rector's guardianship and asserted that there are similar cases in Oklahoma oil country, numbering native Negro children with allotments in this is the reason they say native Negro is because they were born with native folks. There was mixing going on. There's certain reasons why that's there. I'll leave that again up to y'all for the study as we all study together, right, family? With allotments in the hundreds, whose wealth reaches far into the thousands. And in every case, they, like Sarah Rector, have white guardians. The paper questioned why a black guardian could not be appointed who would be fully invested in the girl's welfare, and claimed when a native child allotment is of little or no value to the parents, or some other Negro may be appointed as guardian, but if there is any wealth involved, a white guardian is invariably appointed. Okay, another African American presses echoes the same intimates, right? Expanding the issue from that, because again, they don't want you with nothing. That's why. Very simple. If they wanted you with something, they would have did this already. It's the same thing with anything else. When you talk about reparations, anything. If you wanted to do something, you would do it with no attachments. No strings attached, right? That's what they say. New York Age, for instance, wrote, the money of these colored children is deposited in white banks. When we talk about fractional banking, this goes to our black brothers and sisters in church. And you shout around hallelujah after you've given all that you've given, right? Where do you think that money is then being deposited by the treasurer of that church? Which bank, family? And do you think that bank of which is owned has the black church's, black people's interest in mind? Just look around you, y'all. This is no cut on anybody else, and it's fine for you to amass money for yourself, but what about everybody else? This is the heart of the matter that we talk around, that we make excuses for. Deposited in white banks and used by whites. Not a penny, however, can be used by a Negro. Thus, millions of dollars in valuable land are gradually passed from the hands of Negroes to white people. That's what was going on with her. Do you know at some point with Sarah Rector, right? Folks was hitting her up at 13 because again, all this land she found at 11 years old, right? She was inherited this land right around 11 years old. By the time she was 18, the amount of oil produced per day, they said, was like $11,000. And by the time she got to 18, she was up to 11 million, which is why they called her the richest colored girl in the world. Family, that's where we're going to stop. We're going to put a pause there. We have talked for about an hour. Continuous. We're over. We've done it before, but again, this is necessary to talk about. I hope that y'all learned something today. I hope we all learned something today, right, family? This is just where it's at. We got to understand the world. Again, we got to read the room, family, and we got to learn to stand together. Talking about things that are before we close here, I want to say this, right? In Matthew 13, this is now the agreed books. He spake many things. This is Jesus talking now. Again, he had to sit in the sea. He had to sit in the boat. Came up on seaside because there were so many people. So he sat in a ship to talk to folks. This is Christ now. Spoke many things unto them. Behold, there went a sower to sow forth, right, to sow. And he sowed, and some seeds fell by the wayside. Fowls came up and devoured them. Some fell upon stony places where they had not much earth. And they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth, when the sun came up, it scorched them, because they had no root, and withered away. Some fell among thorns, and the thorns choked them out. Okay? But others fell into good ground, brought forth fruit. Interesting that the ones that fell in the good ground, actually, the way you read this thing, almost like it makes up for the ones that didn't make it. Brought forth some 100, some 60, and some 30-fold. This is stuff we've heard in church forever, right? Who hath ears to hear? Who hath ears to hear? Because we don't already talked an hour now. We got another Snoopy thing here, so we'll let it pause. I don't think I'm gonna. In editing, I don't think I'm gonna put music to this. I think we're just gonna let it play, because I think this is necessary enough. Sometimes you got to hear this. Okay. To those who have ears to hear, let them hear. The disciples asked him why did he speak in parables? For whosoever hath, to him shall be given. Verse before that. Because it is given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. And he's going to explain what this means. For whoever hath, to him shall be given. To those who have, and he shall have more abundance. But whoever has not, from him shall be taken what they have. This is a mentality in the mind, family, right? To whom is given, much is required. Okay. Therefore, I speak to them in parables, because they seeing not, and they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, saying, by hearing you hear, and shall not understand. By seeing you see, and shall not perceive. Meaning this is the explanation of what Christ is saying. For those who sit here like, what? For this people's heart waxed gross, waxed cold, right? And their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes have closed, or they have closed their eyes, lest at any time they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears and should understand with their heart. You see, when you close your heart off, I said the heart of a thing is missing, family. Should be converted, and I should heal them. That's where we're going to stop today, family. Understand the heart of a thing. No, stand with your brother and sister in Mexico. Stand with your brother and sister in Cuba, Haiti, aka Haiti, the Boricua people, the Tainos, aka Puerto Rico. Stand with them. South America, all over this planet, family. This mess that has been sown where we're supposed to take from folks is trash. And it's time that we take a stand by word and deed, right? And those deeds do not have to be violent. Family, thank you for walking this road with me. Thank you for hanging in here. This is a long one, but it was needed to be said. We will talk to y'all soon. And as always, and until next time, look to find the beauty in a different view.